Josh kind of give me a thumbs up. Y'all are good. Perfect. Well, I certainly appreciate everybody being here on a Labor Day. Thank you guys very much for coming in and getting to spend time with our program and talk about our last game against Nebraska and preview to Southern Utah. Obviously, not the outcome that we wanted. As a head football coach, there's a lot of things that go into this that you have to assess, right? And you can't just look at the final score. And that's not just coach speak. That's a reality, right? Especially when you're building a program and you're building a culture. I got to say this. I felt it on the field, and then looking at the tape, it confirmed it. Which was huge. Was how hard our kids played. Our kids played hard to the bitter end. There was no cancerous activity on the sideline. There was no bickering between offense and defense. That stuff, to the outside eye may not be a big deal. For me as a head coach, it's a massive deal. And I really wanted to see game one where we're at culturally. And obviously there's no better way to know where you're at culturally until, hey, you're in front of 100,000 fans. You start getting your tail beat and, what's going to happen with your team, right? And our coaches kept coaching hard. Our players kept playing hard. And I'm so proud of them for their effort. And I'm proud of them, for the culture and the standard that they upheld. I told them after the game, when we went to the airport, we got on the plane, we got to the hotel, we took a football team to Lincoln, Nebraska that 100% expected to win. And there was no backing down. There was no wavering in that. There was no, I didn't feel any false sense of that. We had a football team that truly expected to win that game. And that was verified even on the plane ride back and on the bus ride back. There wasn't giggling, there wasn't laughing, there wasn't like, oh, it's Nebraska. Like, we knew that those guys are really good. And then yesterday it confirmed it again for me. We have the right pulse on this team, and I'm really excited about that. To know where we're at culturally. Everybody in the building yesterday, we call it Flush Sunday, and once we're done with Sunday, we're done with the game. We flushed it all out mentally and physically. Our coaches and our players, you could feel the level of disappointment that we didn't win the game. And to me, that, like, as a head coach, that's a good thing, because that means they expected to beat a team of the caliber of Nebraska, and I'm very, very proud of that. Nobody came in and took took things lightly. The plane ride back was quiet. The bus ride was quiet. They're disappointed. I'm disappointed. I wanted to certainly play better, and I told you since the day I got here, there's not going to be one game that we don't prepare to win, and we prepared fully to win that game. Give Matt Rule and the Nebraska staff a ton of credit. Thought they had a great plan. Thought they played extremely physical. And I thought it was a very, very good test for our program and where we're at. A couple things to point out, a couple things I pointed out to the team. You look at about 10:48 left in the second quarter. It's a 7-7 ball game. We're going toe to toe. With those guys, we just scored a touchdown. Our defense goes and gets a 3 and out. Offensively, we get the ball back. We don't score, but then our defense gets the ball back for offense with a take back on the fumble recovery by Dorian Hopkins, who I think played an unbelievable football game for the UTEP Miners. And it's 7-7. Obviously, where we spiraled out of control was after the safety. Got a backer run through there. Bad play call on my part. I got to do a better job of making sure we're shored up in the middle in that situation, in a coming out situation right there, which we've worked several times in practice. We got back and run through on it. They did a great job dialing that up, and it created enough penetration to where we got a safety. But our response after that safety, you're looking now, okay, you might be 10 minutes or so, and now it's 9-7, and the halftime score is 30-7. That can't happen. That's where we let the adversity, we let those things get out of control. We throw the interception before the half. They score on a throw that the kid makes a spectacular catch. Give him credit, but we have 2-on-1 there. So just all of a sudden it goes from a 7-7 game to a 9-7 game to a 30-7 game, just in a heartbeat. That's the adversity that we have to be able to fight through, and none of it was cultural based; it was execution based, and that's been the message to the team is I love where we're at culturally. I love where we're at unity-wise. I feel very strong about that. But now we got to bring the level of execution up with that if we're going to beat the caliber of teams such as Nebraska and such as Southern Utah this week and such as the teams in our league. So that's really important. But I am dang proud of our football team's fight. I showed them 4 clips that exemplified our culture yesterday that were instrumental. Corey Chapman tracking down the running back, hawking him down from the backside. We're in man-to-man coverage, guys. They're in 3-by-1 nub, and they run a zone play on 3rd and 5. And they number one, they showed heavier percentage pass, on 3rd and medium. And we're in 3-by-1 nub, and we're thinking, hey, we're going to get some type of combination route, some type of pass route. So we wanted to be sticky to routes, and so we called man coverage. And the run spits away from Corey. Corey's over here guarding the number 2 receiver. They run a little RPO screen, and he goes with his guy, and then he sees the thing break, and he sprints that thing down from the backside, tackles the guy on the 5, and that's something that type of effort, that fanatical effort, is the type of effort we're going to win with, and that was a big time clip. Sione Tongo Owiha, his sack on Rayola, that was with 2 minutes left in the half, right after the interception we threw, and as soon as that ball was snapped, he got off the ball and beat their center, who is an all-conference center, and had a big-time hit on their quarterback. We did not dial that play up for him to get that sack. We called a 4-man rush, playing base zone defense, and that's fanatical individual effort, and that's why he's our trench warrior and got a big-time sack. Right there. The 3rd clip was Cam Thomas on the touchdown, because I think Cam Thomas played absolutely fearless in man-to-man coverage. He played fearless the whole day. The things that you're not going to see, or that if you go back and watch, his blocking on the perimeter. Number 2 for them is just a beast of a safety. And man, he cracked him one time, and they both about knocked each other out. But you know what? Cam's sacrifice for the team, man. You watch how he played the game. He cares about his teammates and cares about winning. And that route, I showed the team was a fearless route, man-to-man coverage, and they didn't play man coverage the rest of the night. And it's due to him taking the top off. And that was a huge deal. The last thing, the most proud thing, clip that I showed, by far the thing I'm the most proud of, and it made a big deal of it with the team, and they saw it, and it was awesome, is the goal line stand when they're up, 37 to 7. They're up 37 to 7. They've been on the 1 and the 2 yard line consistently through the game and have just ran it in, with ease. There's no reason to believe why they wouldn't do that again. We called a timeout, to make this point, because we felt like culturally it was a critical part of the game. Is our team going to lay down, or are we going to stand up and get a stop on 3rd down? And man, if you watch that clip, you will watch Devin Goree, you will watch, Maurice Westmoreland, Oscar Moore. All 11 guys that were on that field, Dorian Hopkins, shoot their gaps with fanatical energy and effort and get a stop, right there on 3rd down. Could have easily let those guys walk in. So I'm so proud of our defense. They showed some big-time glimpses of what an Orange Swarm defense is going to look like here at UTEP. And the Blue Blaze showed very minimal glimpses, but definitely showed a couple of glimpses where it's like, hey, that's what it should look like. But that goal line stand to me said a lot about the character of our team. You got Maurice Westmoreland out there, who is 37 to 7, and Maurice is, as we all know, is a potential draft pick. And he could easily be like, man, it's 37 to 7. Coach, I'm good. He's out there setting the freaking edge, and Dorian Hopkins is shooting the gap. And I was so proud of the physicality of that play. That said a lot about this team's character and their demeanor. And although the scoreboard I know is not going to reflect it, there's a lot of things as a head coach I look at that say, that's a good sign right there. I think a lot of times in year one, you can spend the entire year going over culture and I think that we're ahead of the game in that. So I'm very proud. Give you some awards. We never hand out Player of the Week awards after a loss. But these guys are recognized. We're always going to give out the Luke Laufenberg Hustle Award for the guy that played the absolute hardest and exemplified the fight of Luke on game day. So we give that out to the Blue Blaze, Orange Swarm, and We Fence. Those recipients for the Blue Blaze were Cam Thomas, the Orange Swarm, Corey Chapman, and We Fence, Dorian Hopkins. Obviously, kind of 2 birds, 1 stone here. Jalen Ram, we came out rather healthy. Jalen Ram right now has a lower body injury. We feel like it's significant. I don't have a exact diagnosis and exact timeline, but we're gonna just suspect he's out indefinitely right now with a lower body injury. And phenomenal young man, came out of portal from Middle Tennessee. I recruited him out of high school, Thompson High School in Alabama. Coach Freeman does an amazing job with that program, one of the most prominent programs in the nation. And Jalen's a winner in every facet of the word. And we're certainly praying for him to get healthy, and hopefully we get good news on his diagnosis. But when he went out in the first quarter, Dorian Hopkins stepped in and had 16 tackles and also became a one on a lot of defensive units. Not one time did this kid ask to come off the field. This kid, I mean, he showed me so much on Saturday. I'm so excited about number 41 for the UTEP Miners, man. Dorian wouldn't come off the field. He played with a chip on his shoulder, 16 tackles. I thought he played at a championship level. The developmental players of the week. We always award these guys to give us a look. I want to point them out. Shout out to these guys. These are younger freshman guys on the non-travel squad that gave us a phenomenal look to help us prepare on the blue offense. Pebble Hills product Marcus Torres was Devo Offensive Player of the Week. Was just full speed max effort against our defense. Did a great job on the orange defense. To give our offense a look. Trace Meadows at linebacker. Fanatical effort, fanatical look. Being able to really imitate those linebackers and how much movement they had was really special. And then on the defense, guy running down all the time on kickoff, being physical on kickoff return. An El Paso native as well, Hanks High School, Xavier Johnson gave us a phenomenal look this week. So very proud of him and proud of those guys. And I talked to you about the highlights of the game, those 4 clips, and another stat that stood out to me from the game that I'm very proud of was our offensive line. Since the month of June, we have been, I know we did not run the ball near as effective as we wanted to, but from a pass protection standpoint, we only gave 1 sack on the day to who I think is going to be one of the best fronts that we see. We've been preparing for their fronts since June because of how diverse they are. And those guys, they do so much up front to make you prepare, and our offensive line picked up just about everything they threw at us, gave our quarterbacks time. Certainly want to shut down penetration a little more, but we had no free hitters at the quarterback. We had very, very limited MAs up there, and we gave a 1 sack there at the end. That's more on the quarterback than it was the offensive line, so I'm very proud of our pass protection. That's something to build off of. Excited about this week. Excited to the home opener against Southern Utah. We have roughly 34,000 tickets sold, for the game. So I am beyond excited to get to coach my first game in the Sun Bowl. It's going to be an honor to do so. But we've got to prepare. We've got to get back and have a great week of practice so that we can give these fans what they deserve and give our donors, our alumni what they deserve. Who I also want to give a shout out to our alums and donors came on the trip with us to Nebraska. Miner Nation that showed up. Our parents showed up in a big way. The Spirit Squad showed up in Lincoln in a big way. I'm very, very grateful for that, and we want to certainly give you something to be proud of at home this week. One note I want to make: Miner Walk is something new that we are going to start this week. I know we've gotten the word out on it a little bit, but I want to use this time to make sure everybody knows. Miner Walk is going to be 2 hours and 15 minutes before kickoff, and we're going to pull the buses up, walk right through all the tailgaters, which I think we have every spot sold out tailgate wise, except maybe 1 or 2 at this point, which is awesome. Just credit to our admin for hustling on that. But we're going to walk our players right through our fans as we enter the LKD. A unique tradition we want to start as our players get off the bus, and we have the cheerleader Spirit Squad there with us walking in. It's going to be awesome. And then obviously the return of the mine shaft entrance. We're really thrilled about that too. But bottom line is we've got to get back to work. We got a Blue Collar Tuesday tomorrow. We've got a big time preparation day today to get ready for a great Southern Utah team. I'm sure you have questions on them. I won't get too deep in them because I know you probably have questions on Southern Utah, but they're a great team. Coach Fitzgerald, a great football coach, saw them up front live at 5 last year, and we have a very quality opponent coming into the Sun Bowl this Saturday that we have to prepare for. So with that, I'll open it up to you guys.
I guess give us the scouting report on Southern Utah.
Yeah, so Delane Fitzgerald, the head football coach there, had I think 7 years of great success at Frostburg State. This team, and I said this last year, you go back to my press conferences last year at Austin Peay, because this team was in the UAC with us. I had not, and I still feel the same way after watching them against Utah. This team plays harder than any team I've seen in the past 3 years on tape. And I mean that with all my heart and soul. There's not a team that I've watched that plays harder. You watch them against Utah, they're down whatever the score ended up being, and they're down. Their kids fight. He has a great culture over there. This is an offense that is going to run a lot of zone schemes up front. They love to run a lot of them balanced. They're bouncing between quarterbacks right now. They have a young man from Prosper High School in Dallas, Texas, Jackson Berry. I remember coming out of high school. I'm always in tune to those Texas quarterbacks, and he was a heck of a player at Prosper. I mean, lit it up, and he can run, he can throw. And then they put in the young man, Bronson Barron, who's the Weber State transfer / Western Kentucky transfer, was in our league, but he led Weber State to a playoff run. He's a heck of a quarterback too. They're kind of bouncing between them. They have a young man, Mark Bales and Zach Mitchell at receiver, who we feel they're weapons. Mark Bales is a Seton Hill transfer, had 900 yards receiving at Seton Hill, Division II. He's a big 6'3" threat. Zach Mitchell played against us last year and had some big time catches in the UAC. And then the kid that is just the unsung hero of it all, though, for their offense is number 51, Edward Riley. I remember this kid just like yesterday on tape, and I saw him again. I was hoping he graduated or something, but he's a starting center. He's a bad dude. He's a bad dude, man. He may not be the tallest or the biggest, but man, he's one of the best centers in that league. And he was an all-conference kid last year. He makes them go. And Coach Fitzgerald, he's going to have these kids wired up, believing they can win. They're going to come to the Sun Bowl with great energy. I expect a great game. When you go over to the defensive side, their defensive line is the strength of their defense, and their linebackers, their front seven. Not that their secondary is bad. I think 31, their corner, is a heck of a player. I think their safeties play very sound. Coach Kelling is their defensive coordinator, who was, I believe, he's a Division II Player of the Year back in the 1990s. He's a heck of a player, and he's a heck of a coach. And they base out of a 4-down front, but they can get multiple on you in a hurry. Number 93, number 44, and number 32 are the three guys up front that you want to look for. Number 6 at linebacker is an all-conference linebacker. He's a special player. Runs sideline to sideline. He gave us fits last year, was the leading tackler against us last year. But the three guys I set up front, those are the guys that make them go, in my opinion. 44 was El Camino Junior College in California, was a JUCO in that conference, defensive player of the year in that conference. He's listed at 5'11", 215, but don't let that fool you. I don't. You can turn on the tape against Utah, it's a hard evaluation of Southern Utah, because Utah, we know, is going to contend for a national championship this year, how good those guys are. And but let me tell you something, their offensive line had a hard time handling 44-30. You don't believe me? Watch the first clip. Just go do me a favor, watch the first clip of Southern Utah's defense versus Utah's offense, and watch number 32, this young man they got out of the portal, Walker Harris, 6'5", 250, was a D2 transfer from Sioux Falls, prominent program up in South Dakota. Watch the first clip. He puts a spin move on one of their all-conference tackles. They made me rewind it about 5 times, and so we better get our tail ready. All right, we better get our tail ready. These kids play hard, they believe. Number 93 makes my heart go pitter-patter. I don't want to butcher his last name, but Rylan Suafilo, 6'1", 300 nose guard. He makes my heart go pitter-patter, man. Every time I watch a kid play. Last year, he will run stuff down. He single-handedly won them the Tarleton State game last year. They played Tarleton State last year. They're down by 3 scores. He blows up the mesh, takes the ball out of the running back's hands, runs it in for a touchdown. It literally won them the game. And it was the deciding touchdown to win them the game. The kid it wreaks havoc up front. So our offensive line has to have another great week of prep, and they've got to be ready to play. But Southern Utah is a great opponent. We're not taking them lightly. We don't have the right to take anybody lightly, and we never will as long as I'm here. And I know Southern Utah all too well, and they are definitely not going to catch us by surprise. We were going to prepare as hard for them, if not harder than we prepared for Nebraska. Obviously, we've got to clean some things up on our end first.
Just all 3 quarterbacks got in against Nebraska. Skyler getting most of the reps. What are we going to see at that position come this Saturday? Like, Skyler the go-to guy? Or I know you said you only wanted to play 2 or 3 of these first 3 games. Just how are you going about that process now?
Yeah, we're going to approach it the same way, very similar. I felt like Skyler and Cade, both had their good and their bad. I thought, Skyler did a great job maneuvering the pocket and extending plays for us. I thought Cade, came in and was getting that ball up and out. My plan was to play both of them and I wanted to do that before halftime. And I felt like after the safety, I didn't, I told Scott this, I didn't pull him because of the safety or anything like that. It was, in my heart, my mind to play both of them in the first half. I didn't want one of them to not play in the first half and wait during halftime and kind of come out cold. I wanted to get them both in and get their feet wet in the first half. That was my goal, and then see who took it from there. And I thought Skylar did a great job. It was 11 to 17, completed over 60% of his passes, was fairly accurate. There's 2 throws that we gotta have, and he knows this. The one to Cam Thomas down in the end zone, and then there's one over the middle, throwing off our back foot that when we didn't need to. We had good protection there, that we could eliminate. But I thought that he played really well. And I thought Cade had his bright spots too. Was managing the offense really well. Pulled a couple of runs, got to the sideline. And got us a first down on a 2nd and 5 after he pulled it. Keeping the defense honest was really good. And then Shea Smith got in. I told you that Shay's a great talent. Franklin High School here in El Paso. He's got all the talent in the world. And when we had the opportunity, certainly middle of the game there, that was a package for him. We felt like we wanted to get that out in the open field. And then as the game got late and the score was what it was, I felt like it was a great time to get some reps under his belt because there's not going to be many other environments that he can't say I've never played on a big time stage. Now he's got those reps, and those reps for young players are invaluable. We played dang near everybody that came on the trip besides just a few, and I think I told you this. We traveled 16, I believe 16 true freshmen, and a lot of those cats played, and and Shea being one of them, and those reps are invaluable for his future.
Speaking of the freshmen, with Shea and guys like Jalen Jones, Kyron Duhan, do you have a philosophy on what you want to do? Play them 4 games and maybe see a red shirt, or just play them the whole season, see what they could do?
It's a great question. If you asked me that question, before the portal, I would probably tell you, I'd have a little more of a, plan with that. But my mindset has always been even before the portal is, we don't recruit guys to redshirt. If they're good enough to play, the best players play. And so these guys are certainly good enough to play. But I'll say this, even now in this day and age, heck, if you got a great player, you better play him. You better play him. You better not say, man, this guy's, because I think in the past you would look at like guys like that, and you would say, man, this guy is a really good player, and hey, let's get him 4 games of great experience. Let's put the shirt on him, and then next year he's going to be even more dominant. Now it's like, man, when you got a good player and he's deserving of playing time, then you put him on the field. So we don't have a mindset to redshirt those guys. We're still, I think, evaluating as well, right? We just have 1 game under our belt, and I think as the season goes on, we'll get a better shape of our depth chart in totality to be able to make those decisions. But honestly, we're certainly not going to waste a young man's eligibility when it's not necessary. But it's always going to be about the team first. I've told we have a section in our player manual that talks about redshirting and talks about our mentality towards it. And the number one thing for me is it's always about the team first. Whatever helps the team is going to be at the forefront of our mind. But we have great players like Kyron. You mentioned Kyron and Jalen, and just the list goes on. That freshman class is really, really special in my opinion. And if they prove they're the best guys and continue that, then they're gonna play.
I know the entire nation got a first look at what the coach to player communication is like. I know you said this is the first time you're getting to use it. How vital is that going to be for you guys, considering the offense you guys plan on running? Yeah. And
Critical. I think it's critical. You probably, I know they mic'd it up, and you probably heard me on that play, talking about watching rotation, and it's just little tidbits I can give him like that. We can talk through, which is pretty cool. I just got to tell them, I tell this because I tend to think out loud and talk out loud. And so before the game, I had to remind Kate and Skylar, I was like, hey, there's going to be times where, it's 3rd down and I'm trying to get a call, and I'm going to say 3 calls, but I'm not saying them to you. I'm saying 3 calls. I'm talking it out in my head, and I'm talking it out even with the staff. And so we had to be on the same page on that. It creates a new dynamic, right? So, and it makes me have to be more precise with my communication of all right, Skylar, let's go. Hey, we're going to run blah, 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 and so, but it's going to be paramount, man. And the advantage for us is the ability to get that play call in fast and then be able to talk him through what he sees. But the other part of it too, and you probably heard this from other people, but it's also been something, huge for us, is you have to manage how much you talk to him too. Because you don't want to put too much in his head. That's the last thing you want to do. And I certainly felt like, we're getting on the same page with that, because I want to give him tidbits, but I don't want, paralysis by analysis. Those guys, like, oh, okay, coach sees this, I see that. At some point, you got to let him play. But I think it's good to be able to get that play and give him a couple tidbits about what we're seeing.
Aside from culture, just looking at the X's and O's, how much were you able to evaluate against Nebraska, just in terms of how good they were?
A lot, yeah, a lot. I mean, I think from an X and O standpoint, they did a couple of things. They were pretty honestly consistent with what we saw on tape in terms of their schematics towards us. Played a lot less man coverage than what I expected, but I think that was after Cam Thomas scored that one. They felt like they could play zone and keep everything in front. That presented some challenges. We certainly had a mentality, push it down the field a little more. But the way they were playing their defense, man, playing those guys back, playing those guys off, we had to take some shutdowns, take some underneath stuff. I certainly wanted to be able to run the ball more. That's something that is our offense is contrary to popular belief, is built on. It's just with the flow of the game, and offense has got to sustain drives. We really hurt our defense with the lack of plays that we ran. Right. I'm not a huge believer in time of possession, but when you're not scoring points, it becomes paramount, right? You have to score. It's one thing if they doubled you up in time of possession, but you doubled them up on the scoreboard, it doesn't matter. But when they doubled you up on time of possession and you're not scoring, your defense is hurt, and we really hurt our defense, and that starts with me. One thing I said it after the game, to your point, Brett, is we definitely, and again, this is on me, we definitely had too much in the game plan on them, and the reason for that, number one, was because we're playing a team the caliber of Nebraska. We didn't feel like we could you can't just walk out there against a front like Nebraska when they have 2 to 3 NFL draft picks up there and just line up and, hey, 2 by 2 and let's run right at them, or let's just throw hitches all day. You gotta have some type of advantage within the game plan, whether it's unbalanced, whether it's FIB or just doing unique things to gain a hat advantage, right? So that's the mindset towards it, but where probably went a little too far is we had probably too much of that in, where we confused our own guys, and that's where I've got to be better this week of finding that. And every team I've had is different, of finding that sweet spot of the volume of plays they can handle, and that's something I'm still figuring out with our offense, and even on defense we're figuring that out. What's that sweet spot of the volume of plays that our guys can handle so they can go execute effectively, but we're not vanilla for the opponent, and so I think that we're finding that out better every day we're with these guys, and certainly had a little too much in the game plan, but definitely was able to evaluate schematics against
time of possession with the defense out there for so long.
Yeah.
How did they do? Are you on point on your physicality, the physicalness, because being out there that long endangers injury,
Sure.
mental.
Yeah.
I mean, it does get mental when you're out there that long.
100%. And so evaluating our defense through that, I was very proud. We had 16 or 17. I think we ended up with 16 or 17 missed tackles on the day, which for a game one, that is really good. I know that sounds like a lot, but that's honestly for a game one, that is really solid. We needed it. Now the caveat to that, in my opinion, when you watch the tape, is we got to get more what we call KEB tackles, which is knock 'em back tackles. Where what we hit goes backwards, right? A lot of times we were there and we were making those tackles, but they were bleeding through for an extra 2 to 3. And that's on me not getting enough guys at the point of attack with a 12 personnel, 13 personnel team. I certainly think I could have. I definitely know I could have done a better job of getting our personnel, the right personnel on the field in our goal line sets, to where we get a little bigger, heavier with a team like Nebraska. Certainly needed to be better there, with that. But for us to have that many missed tackles and to play as physical as we did, I thought with the time possession, those things given, I do like where we're at physicality wise. Certainly, when I watch the tape from defense to offense to defense, I don't see anybody turning it down, which that's a huge deal. Is okay when the live bullets are flying, who's turning it down? Hey, who's walking away? You even think about up front. I know we didn't have a great rushing day or a great day on offense period at all. But if you really assess the tape and watch our offensive line, there's some nasty things that they do. Otis Pitts played extremely violent. Way too many holding calls for our offensive line. We're going to clean that up in terms of our technique. But Otis Pitts played extremely violent. I thought Brennan played violent up front. And defensively, certainly Dorian Hopkins is a guy, when you think about physicality, that's the guy who comes about. I thought Xavier Smith on the back end played extremely physical as well. So I do like for a game one where we're at, given that we were on the field for such a long period of
They
time.
did mention on the broadcast that you, and showed it on the replays of how one guy would get there and then the second guy would get there and then they'd still get that third guy there and,
Yes.
and make the stop, so that they noticed.
That's a standard for us on defense. It's orange swarm for a reason, right? And we don't. And I think I've said this in a previous press conference, but we don't call it running to the football. We call it hunting the football. When you run to something, you can run aimlessly like a dog chasing a mailman, right? But whenever you hunt something, you're hunting with intent. And I loved seeing our defense swarm to the football. I thought that was a really good sign.
Just considering not only the build up to this season, but especially the home opener, I guess how much of a pressure do you feel to make sure this team delivers a result on Saturday, considering it's the first time, you guys are at home playing an FCS program that's still tough,
Sure.
and then fans are going to be getting the first look at you guys.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think certainly, obviously, we're in a pressure-filled business, in general, but we're not going to put added pressure on ourselves. I think pressure comes when you don't prepare, and we're certainly going to prepare. Obviously, in my heart and in this coaching staff's heart and these players' hearts. I mean, even Cade McConnell got in front of the team last night, and it was really cool to hear him talk about hey, what it means to defend the Sun Bowl for this city and for our fans, and to give them something to be proud of. So there's certainly an expectation there. There's certainly a desire for us to go out and perform really well in front of our home crowd. We've talked about it a lot in the offseason. Winning programs and winning teams, they play well at home, and they defend their home turf. We certainly understand we're still ironing a lot of things out with our personnel, with our schematics, with how we do things. I mean, this is the first time that we traveled on the road together. The first true Fast Friday we went through. We did some mock ones, but the true No Sweat Thursday, the true walkthroughs on game day. And so our guys are getting accustomed to a lot of new and adaptation. I think that we're all going to be on 10 this week in preparation so that it gives us a chance to go out on Saturday and give our fans the best and fix the mistakes. But the one thing I want to do better, and I told the team this last night, is where I feel like as a head coach I did a poor job of last week, is kind of getting away from our standard of process over results. I spent too much time the last week and even game week talking about Nebraska and all those things rather than talking about us. And so this week, the mistake that I'm not going to make and our staff is not going to make is to talk about Saturday. We're going to focus on Monday, creating the best game plan we can, and then tomorrow having the best blue-collar Tuesday practice and falling in love with that daily process. And, last night we talked about the focus is on us, because at the end of the day, if we focus on us and we focus on getting better, then the results are going to take care of itself.
Anything else for coach?
Awesome, guys. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.